What if I told you the most powerful people in the world aren't necessarily the smartest, but the ones who know how to use a secret principle with their resources? Think about it. How do the rich actually get rich, without luck? Let me show you what I mean. Take Warren Buffett. He's worth over $100 billion, yet he still lives in the same Omaha house he bought in the 1950s. Drives himself around. Breakfast? A McDonald's combo meal. Now stop for a second. How does a man who lives like your next-door neighbor quietly make billions every single year? What's his real game? It's not longer work hours, it's not grinding harder. And it's definitely not skipping lattes like those finance blogs keep nagging about. There's something else going on. Hold that thought, because I want to take you back to the early 1900s. There was this guy with a small workshop making cars. Back then, building just one car took days. Skilled craftsmen had to put everything together by hand. One car, one team, endless hours. Naturally, only the rich could afford one. Now here's where it gets interesting. Instead of having one team build a whole car, this guy broke the process into steps. One person fitted the wheels, another worked on the engine, someone else handled the paint. Suddenly, cars rolled out in hours instead of days. Prices dropped, production exploded, and soon, an automobile wasn't just a luxury. It was something an average American family could buy. That man was Henry Ford. And here's the real question. How did he pull it off? He didn't suddenly get smarter. He didn't start working 20 hours a day. He found a way to multiply his effort. One clever system, massive ripple effect. Do you know what you call the principle on which the system was based? That's the hidden pattern connecting Buffett, Ford, Oprah. It's the difference between people who keep grinding day after day and the ones who somehow achieve more with less effort. The pattern is called leverage. And here's the thing, it's not just about making more money, it's about multiplying whatever you put your energy into. So, the question is, how do you build leverage in your own life? That's exactly what we're diving into today. Hello, you are watching Metanoia, where we bring you insightful videos on psychological principles helping you shape your habits, emotions, decisions, and identity to enable a real and lasting transformation. In this video, we're going to decode leverage. Not in the vague, work smarter, not harder way, but in a practical, step-by-step way. We'll start with the biggest misunderstanding about leverage, the mistake that keeps most people stuck working harder, not smarter. Then we'll talk about the hidden enemy of leverage, the mindset that kills it before it even begins. After that, I'll share a ridiculously simple technique to multiply your time, something you can start using right away. We will get into the 6 major types of leverages that you can work with in your own way, and throughout these 6 types of leverages I'll share many examples of successful people. You will be surprised to know these people used the power of leverage to build the highly successful life they are living. Finally, I'll bring it all together with a simple plan, so you don't just understand leverage, you actually start using it in your own life, the same way Buffett, Ford, and countless others did. So, let's begin. Have you ever wondered how some people seem to get 10 times more done with the same amount of time, energy, or money as you? They're not superhuman. They're just using a tool most of us were never taught to use: leverage. Leverage is the ability to amplify your effort, to use a small input and generate an outsized output. It's the mental model that turns average people into millionaires, and millionaires into legends. Think of it like a seesaw. One person pushing down on one side of the plank can lift a weight far heavier on the other, if the fulcrum is placed correctly. In the same way, when you apply leverage in life, you don't need to push harder. You just need to push smarter. In finance, this might look like using borrowed money to multiply returns. In business, it might mean building systems so your work runs without you. In daily life, it's choosing tools, habits, or decisions that free up your time and energy for bigger things. And here's the real insight. Leverage is everywhere. You just have to learn how to spot it and use it. So what does this look like in real life? How do successful people actually use leverage to build success on autopilot? Let's start with the most precious and misunderstood asset of all. You ever sit back and wonder, how come some people seem to live 5 lives in the same 24 hours the rest of us have? Take Oprah. In the beginning, she was hustling like the rest of us. She'd prep for her show, host it live, then spend hours in meetings reviewing notes, planning the next day. If she wanted to do more, her only option was to work longer. And you know how that ends. Burnout. But here's where it changed. Oprah realized she couldn't just be the person on camera forever. She needed to build something that worked even when she wasn't in the room. So instead of personally handling every detail, she hired people she trusted, set up production teams, and created a system where the show could keep rolling smoothly. Then she did it again with her book club. At first it was just Oprah saying, "Hey, I like this book." But she built a whole structure around it, partners with publishers, distribution deals, media tie-ins. So while Oprah herself was still reading and recommending, the machine around her made sure millions of people heard about it, and books flew off shelves. That's the difference. She stopped being just one person working 24 hours and started building systems that gave her back time while multiplying her impact. Same Oprah, same hours, but now her hours went 10 times further. Now let's talk about Airbnb. It didn't start as some billion-dollar empire. In 2007, Brian Chesky and Joe Gebbia were literally broke in San Francisco trying to figure out rent. They put 3 air mattresses in their living room and made a tiny website to host travelers. At first they were doing everything by hand, emails, phone calls, even making breakfast for guests. It worked, but barely. They realized if we keep doing this ourselves, it dies the second we sleep. So they started building systems. Instead of chasing payments, they set up an online booking and payment platform. Instead of manually convincing people it was safe, they added reviews, profiles, and messaging, so trust could scale without them in the middle. Every piece they automated or delegated freed up their time. And at the same time, it multiplied how many people could use Airbnb without Brian and Joe personally running around. That's how they went from 3 air mattresses to millions of listings worldwide. Not magic. Just leverage. Here's the thing, if you're only relying on your 2 hands, you'll always hit the wall. There are only so many hours in a day. But the people who seem like they're living 5 lives, they're not grinding harder. They're multiplying their time. And that's the secret. The biggest and the #1 leverage in the world is time. Now, you start looking at what's already around you. And ask, what am I not using that could be working for me? That's where the next level of leverage begins. Let me tell you something crazy. Most people think they're stuck because they don't have enough money or tools or connections. But when you look at people who really break through, you realize they didn't start with more. They just used what they already had differently. Take The Rock. In the beginning, he wasn't Hollywood's highest paid actor. He was just a wrestler with a goofy nickname, a raised eyebrow, and a fan base that loved him. That was it. Now, most wrestlers fade out when the spotlight moves on. But The Rock thought, okay, I've got fame, I've got charisma, I've got work ethic, what else can I do with this? So he flipped wrestling into acting. Then those action roles gave him a bigger platform. Then he used that platform to launch businesses. His tequila brand, his gym brand, his production company. Step by step, he just kept reusing the same core assets in new ways. He didn't magically invent more hours in the day. He didn't start with billions, he just kept stretching the resources he already had until they created something new. And it's not just celebrities. Sarah Blakely, the woman who started Spanx, had no fashion background, no investors, and no fancy office. She literally cut the feet off her pantyhose in her apartment because she wanted something more comfortable to wear. That was her resource. A $5,000 savings account, a pair of scissors, and sheer persistence. Instead of saying, I can't do it without money, she knocked on doors, pitched her product, begged factories to take her seriously. Eventually one did. Then Oprah mentioned Spanx on her show and boom, it blew up. But none of that happens if Sarah sits around waiting for more capital, more experience, more permission. She just maxed out what she already had. And that's the part most people miss. You don't always need more. You need to notice the assets already in your corner, skills, connections, experiences, even problems you've solved for yourself, and redirect them where they'll work harder. So, you know what exactly worked for The Rock? What made Sarah Blakely a billionaire with scissors and an idea? They leveraged their resources, and that brings us the second big leverage, which is resources. But what happens when your resources aren't things, but people? That's when you tap into the most exponential form of leverage, where the right connections can unlock doors money never could. Let's check this leverage next. Ever notice how sometimes it just takes one person to completely change the course of your life? Think about Steve Jobs. Back in the mid-70s, he wasn't Steve Jobs yet, just a scrappy kid from California with big ideas. But here's the thing, Jobs wasn't an engineer. He couldn't actually build the stuff he imagined. Enter Steve Wozniak. Woz was the opposite. Brilliant engineer, could put hardware together in his sleep, but he didn't care about selling or marketing. Alone, Woz might have tinkered forever in a garage. Alone, Jobs might have stayed a dreamer with sketches. But together, they created Apple. One guy had the vision, the other had the engineering chops. That relationship was the multiplier. Without Woz, no Apple computers. Without Jobs, no global brand. Together, they changed the world. And this isn't just about tech giants. I know a guy named Chris Guillebeau. He started as a small-time blogger just writing about travel and unconventional living. Not exactly a business plan, right? But then he started connecting with other creators. He guest posted on their sites. They shared his work with their audiences. One introduction led to another, and suddenly Chris wasn't just a lone blogger. He was an author, a speaker, a community builder. The turning point, not a new tool, not extra money, a relationship. Someone who believed in him and opened a door. That's the quiet secret. The people who really get ahead aren't doing it solo. They find allies, partners, mentors, audiences. They align goals so that success isn't a one-man mission, it becomes a shared win. So if you think back to Jobs and Woz, or Chris growing from blogger to best-selling author, you know what actually changed their lives? They leveraged their relationships, from strategic partnerships to advisors, teams, and even mentors. The right relationships multiply your output without multiplying your effort. That's what the third leverage is. Relationship. Think about it. A single investor, a loyal audience, or a well-connected ally can open doors that years of hustle couldn't. And here's the real secret. It's not about using people. It's about creating win-win ecosystems. When you align your goals with others, your success becomes a shared mission, and the momentum becomes unstoppable. But what if you could scale your influence without even being in the room? That's where the next form of leverage kicks in, one that travels faster, lasts longer, and compounds over time. Let's check what it is. You know what I've noticed? The people who really get ahead aren't the ones doing more. They're the ones doing the right things. Take Taylor Swift. She's not dropping a song every other week. She's not on stage 365 days a year. She's actually really selective. When her old music masters were sold without her control, she could have fought quietly in the background. Instead, she made one bold move, re-recording her albums. Think about that. Same songs, but new versions owned by her. That single decision didn't just give her back her music, it reshaped the entire music industry. Artists everywhere started rethinking their contracts. One choice, and the ripple went way beyond her own career. That's impact. Now here's someone you've probably never heard of. A guy named Mark, a middle school teacher in Ohio. A few years ago, he noticed some of his students were coming to class hungry. Instead of just handing out a few granola bars, he set up a little food shelf in the classroom. Word spread, other teachers joined in, parents donated. Within a year, that tiny shelf turned into a school-wide food pantry helping hundreds of kids. Mark wasn't working longer hours. He wasn't chasing every possible cause. He just picked one thing that mattered and poured his energy into it. And that one move had an outsized effect. That's the difference. Two people can spend the same number of hours, one answering emails, the other making a move that changes the game. It's not about effort. It's about where that effort lands. And when you look at Taylor's re-recordings, or Mark's classroom food shelf, you realize they weren't just working harder, they were leveraging their impact. And that brings us the fourth big important leverage, which is impact. Think of it this way, two people can work the same number of hours, but one is sending emails, while the other is strategically closing million-dollar partnerships. The difference? Impact leverage. It's the clarity to say no to distractions and a sharp instinct for where your efforts hit hardest. This kind of leverage doesn't just make you more efficient, it multiplies your influence with every move you make. But here's the real power play. What if your impact could ripple through the world even while you sleep? In the next section, we'll unlock the forms of leverage that don't require your time at all. Here's a wild thought. What if your best work kept spreading even when you weren't doing anything? Like, You're asleep, on vacation, binge-watching Netflix, but your ideas are still moving through the world, making money, making waves. Crazy? Not really. You know IKEA, right? That Swedish furniture giant known for its flat-pack furniture, Swedish meatballs, and of course the iconic blue bag, the Fracta. It's a durable, reusable tote that costs just 99 cents and is perfect for hauling everything from groceries to garden supplies. Now imagine this. Balenciaga, a high-end fashion brand, releases a new tote bag priced at $2,145. The catch? It looks strikingly similar to IKEA's Fracta bag. This move sparked a flurry of internet chatter, with people comparing the two bags and poking fun at the luxury price tag for a design that's been around for decades. Instead of ignoring the buzz or taking offense, IKEA decided to join in on the fun. They quickly crafted a witty advertisement that humorously highlighted the similarities between the two bags. The ad playfully instructed customers on how to identify an original IKEA Fracta bag, complete with tongue-in-cheek tips like, "If it rustles, it's the real deal, and only 99 cents. This clever response not only showcased IKEA's sense of humor, but also turned the situation into a viral marketing opportunity. The ad was shared widely across social media platforms, earning IKEA millions of dollars in free publicity. It was a masterclass in leveraging media to amplify brand presence without spending a dime on traditional advertising. So what's the takeaway here? IKEA didn't just react to a situation, they turned it into a strategic move that capitalized on media attention. By embracing the moment and using their platform creatively, they were able to enhance their brand image and reach a broader audience. This brings us to the next point: leveraging media and code. It's about using the tools at your disposal, whether it's social media, content creation, or technology, to amplify your efforts and reach more people without exponentially increasing your workload. This brings us to the fifth big leverage: media and code. Just like IKEA used media to their advantage, you can harness these resources to scale your impact effectively. But here's the ultimate twist: all the leverage in the world is useless if you're stuck thinking like everyone else. In the final section, we reveal the mental shift that separates the rich from the rest, the mindset upgrade that ties it all together. You ever notice how some people with way fewer resources somehow crush it, while others with everything fall behind? Take LeBron James. Everyone knows him as a basketball GOAT, right? But here's the thing. LeBron doesn't just show up and play. He looks for ways to make every move count beyond the court. Every business deal, every media appearance, every sponsorship isn't just about cash. He's thinking, how can I risk a little for massive upside? How can this move create something that grows even when I'm done playing? That's asymmetric thinking. A small input, huge potential outcome. Now here's someone you probably haven't heard of. Emma, a 28-year-old content creator in Austin. She had no big budget, no team, just a laptop and some ideas. Instead of grinding TikTok for hours on random trends, she spent 3 months building a small course on a skill she already knew inside out. Then she set up email automation to sell it. She didn't have to chase clients every day, the system did it for her. A little upfront effort, income flowing while she sleeps. Did you get what is this leverage? It's not luck, it's mindset. And not just attitude mindset. We're talking strategic leverage mindset. That brings us to the sixth big leverage: mindset. So, do you know what separates people who really crush it from those who just keep grinding? It's not just that they have leverage, it's that they think in leverage. Here's what I mean. First, they play asymmetric bets. Most of us think, how can I make $10,000 safely? The ultra-successful think, where can I risk $10,000 for a chance at $1 million without losing my shirt? Like that entrepreneur who puts money into a risky startup or a bold marketing campaign instead of a safe fixed deposit. One smart move, huge upside. Next, they think in systems, not tasks. Instead of doing everything themselves, they ask, what system can I build once that others or technology can run without me? Take a course creator, for example. They spend a few months building a product, then set up automated sales through email funnels. Now, income keeps flowing while they sleep. One setup, ongoing results. They also make leverage first decisions. While most people chase a higher paycheck, they chase leverage. Naval Ravikant didn't try to be a high-paid employee. He built AngelList, a system that scales far beyond him. That's the kind of thinking that multiplies impact. And here's the big one, They don't optimize for money, they optimize for freedom. Mindset leverage is all about escaping that earn, spend, repeat trap. It's using your time to build assets, businesses, content, equity that keep growing without you having to grind every day. In short, they don't just work harder. They work smarter, bigger, and longer term, even when it looks effortless from the outside. So now you understand the tools: time, resources, relationship, impact, media and code, and mindset. But how do you combine them into a practical blueprint? In the final section, we'll tie it all together and show you exactly how to start using hidden leverage in your own life, even if you're starting from scratch. So here we are. We began with a bold question: how do the rich get rich? Without luck. And slowly, piece by piece, we've peeled that mystery apart. We've discovered that true wealth isn't about working harder, it's about working through leverage. And we saw that money isn't the only kind of leverage. You have time, you have relationships, you have media and code and mindset, all of them, waiting to be used differently. We explored how the most successful people don't hustle more, they build systems that multiply their efforts. But here's the real catch: none of this matters if it just stays in your head, because now you know what the levers are. So here's what you need to ask yourself: what feels like play to me but looks like work to others? That's your specific knowledge. What tools or platforms can I use to scale that knowledge? That's your leverage. People, media, code, money. Am I optimizing for status or for freedom? The rich always optimize for freedom. And finally, am I thinking clearly or just reacting? Because mindset, calm, long-term thinking is the ultimate multiplier. No one's going to hand this to you. But the game, it's wide open. And for the first time in history, you already have access to the same tools the rich use: a smartphone, the internet, and your own mind. So now the real question isn't whether you'll get lucky, it's this: will you design your life around leverage, or spend it chasing someone else's dreams? That's how the rich get rich. And as you begin, pay attention, because leverage leaves clues. Ask yourself, where does my time disappear the fastest? What do people constantly ask me for help with? What have I created once that could help 10 more people if I just shared it? That's where your lever is. And when you apply it, even just a little, you'll notice something shift. Your results will no longer be tied to how many hours you grind. That's the moment everything begins to change. That's how the rich get rich, without luck. Because at some point, they stopped pushing and started pulling the right levers. Now it's your turn. He didn't hustle harder. She didn't burn out trying. They just knew where to apply force, and when to let the system do the rest. We began this journey with a question: why do some people build wealth effortlessly, while others stay stuck pushing forever? And now we know, it's not about working more, it's about pulling the right levers. So pause today, and ask, what's one lever you've been sitting on? And what might happen if you finally pull it? Drop it in the comments. Your shift could be someone else's breakthrough. At Metanoia, every story helps you unlearn the grind and relearn your own power. If this video gave you clarity, like it, share it with a friend, and subscribe to Metanoia for more videos that don't just teach, but also transform. Thanks for watching. And more importantly, thanks for choosing leverage over burnout.